really your batting stance really doesn't matter. It's just if you look at the Major League Baseball logo, is everybody has to get to that position to be successful.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 8 of Mound Visit with Jason Grilli. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get you to our fantastic interview with the legend, Gary Sheffield, we want to remind you to make sure that you subscribe to the channel, Top 100 Sports Network. Give the podcast a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show, leave a comment, leave a rating on the show. We'd love to know what you think of it. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Top 100 Sports Net, Top 100 Sports NET there for you. You can follow us on TikTok too. We're always doing recaps of some of the biggest games, some of the biggest moments. So make sure you're following us there for all of the content you want to see. And without further ado, let's get into the interview.
It's Wednesday, another Mound Visit, and we have none other than Gary Sheffield, my friend, my teammate, my former agent down there in Florida, man. Thanks, Gary. I know you just got off the course.
Yeah.
And probably made a few divots or wrapped
Lots
a couple.
of them. I wasn't on my game today, so cut my losses.
You're living the life, man, that every ball player likes to live. So thanks for coming on the show. I loved having over my former friends and teammates and fraternity brothers on here, and you've been so instrumental to me, man. I know a lot of people have heard the story, maybe read the story, but your story, incredible. What a career. One of the most feared hitters. I only faced you a couple times, but boy, I tell you, you were one of the people I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get inside there with that wiffle ball bat. He's swinging around. And that's all you know. Intimidation is a big thing, and confidence in this game. And no one that I've played with or have seen in my own eyes had more confidence than you, man. So thanks for sharing your career, sharing all. I know you love to teach. And being on the show here, because we at Top 100 Sports, we just got this awesome show. We're just telling stories, having fun. There's no direction we go except forward, and
Right.
we let it take it where it's at. So thanks, man, for coming on here, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, bud.
Gary,
So
I think, go ahead.
guys.
Were you going to? I think we're thinking the same thing, Justin.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. I know we were just kind of talking about it before we got on the air here, but how about that finish to the World Baseball Classic last night? I think every baseball fan, I mean, I know maybe I'm just a nerd about it, but I woke up this morning still thinking about that at bat at the end of the game. What was your reaction to that as a former player watching those teams and those two players go at it?
Well, we've been hearing about it, that this may be a possibility that these two guys and these two teams are going to face each other at the end. Japan played a great game to beat, and just go 6-0 to get to that point. And USA been playing some wonderful baseball. They got great players on that team as well. But everybody wanted to see what Mike Trout and see what he does in big moments and important games.
Yeah.
And I think that any baseball fan or former player or what have you always want to see great players in pressure situations and see what they are capable of doing in those type of situations. And when you're talking about two teammates, Ohtani and Trout, facing off man to man, and he's coming at him with 100, 102, 104. You can't ask for nothing better than that, as fans across the country. And what a wonderful ending it was, because I told Jason I expected it to go that way, because when somebody coming in for one inning gets to throw the ball hard as he can to get you out as a hitter, good pitching always beat good hitting. And so once again it showed that in that series.
Well, I was telling Casey before we jumped on that we need to see more of that with Mike Trout and those situations. I don't think he's played in a. Has he competed?
He's played
in a playoff game?
one playoff series in 2014.
Yeah.
That was his only.
Yeah, we're missing out on him. We need to see that.
Well, I think that Major League Baseball has to figure out something, to get him in these kind of games. They have to figure out, dig deep into that organization of wondering why they're not surrounding him with the players that he needs. Or why not just let him go and get a bunch of players for him if you're not going to try to win, because, the game is missing out on seeing something that's, comes around every 50 years. And so when you get a guy that come around every 50 years, you want to see him in the most important games and on biggest stages, because if he's not in the biggest game, Major League Baseball loses out on a lot of money, a lot of different new fans coming to the game worldwide because they don't get to see the best baseball player in the world play. And so as you saw last night, when you saw those two guys going at it, that's what draws fans to the game, and that's what draws people back to the game and make it the America's game again.
Man, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but I felt watching that, and I think it was almost obviously as a United States baseball fan, you wanted to see Trout tie the game up there. You want to see them get a couple runs in the bottom of the ninth, but it was almost it seemed like a passing of the torch type thing, watching Ohtani strike him out in the way that game ended, because Trout's been the best player in baseball, like you mentioned, since he broke into the league almost. And now, with the mania that's been Shohei Ohtani and the talent that he brings to the field, it almost, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but to me it felt like a passing of the torch that Ohtani is there's a reason.
It's funny you saying that. It's funny you saying that because I turned to my son after he struck him out, and I said, this is the worst thing that could have happened to the Angels. Because, you got to think about it. We had this guy as number one, and yes, now we got Ohtani. He's a pitcher and a hitter, and he's putting up the same production that Mike Trout is putting up, and he's just as dangerous at the plate. Not only that, he's a faster runner. We're talking about this guy. If he's not pitching to have a decision in the game, he's hitting and having a decision in the game. So how do you pay a guy like that? So now we always say pitchers, are valuable, but at what price? Because we're out there every single day. Now this guy is saying I'm out there every day and I'm pitching. So So how do you value that?
Is it new contract?
Yes.
Position players always said pitchers are not athletic. Well, thank you, Ohtani. And put us on the map, baby.
I think his you talk about what he's worth. I think that number starts with a 5, in my opinion. I mean,
it's like getting the two players for one.
Right.
Having 1A and 1B on a team, that's okay with me. However you want to slice that. But Chef, I always love, Chef. What people don't know about Chef is, well, thanks first of all, I know you weren't a fan of the media, and the media wasn't necessarily a fan of you.
I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use those terms. I wasn't a fan of certain media people. Not all. Everybody. I don't put everybody in the same category. I never have, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't do what Eddie Murray did, is not talk to the press, because I'm not gonna penalize everybody else for what some people do, and I never did that.
No, I got you. I was just trying to get a little joke in.
I know how you are.
We're having a media here right now. I didn't know how this is going to be. With me sticking a mic in your hands here today. But listen, I always respected this guy, Chef, my friend, always had a good opinion. He's a smart guy. There was even talk about how at one point you negotiated your own contract with Steinbrenner. So on the flip side, not just a good player, but a good businessman, an awesome dude. Just valuable knowledge. It probably would make a great commissioner, in my opinion. I think that the game, if this is our game and how much we have knowledge about the game and on the business side, having somebody like you.
Gary's working deals.
I was going to say, we got
Of
business
course.
deals coming in right now.
I just had a better question to call in the show.
It's Ohtani. He wants 2 contracts.
See, he knows it already. But listen, he's a great negotiator, good businessman. But again, Chef, I think you'd make an argument. Could make an argument, make a good commissioner in this game. You are so. Otani, take the call.
No, go ahead. No,
Yeah.
but Jace, you know me, man. I'm a guy that I got along with everybody, man. Because I take the time out to get to know people, and I don't expect everybody to be like me because I'm not like you. But that don't mean we can't come together with the same, common practice and the same goals when we show up to the park. We put on a good show for the fans. We give the people what they want. We be good teammates to each other. Where can I help you? Where can you help me? That's what baseball and sports is all about. A lot of
Yeah.
times, we get too wrapped up in the performance and the day-to-day pressures that you deal with and the difficulties of life that we deal with everybody else deal with that we don't show when we're on the field. We have to be professional. So with all that being said, through my years, what I always tell people is this: the problem with certain media people and certain individuals, they think that person that's 19, 20, 21 years old, let's just say all the way to 23 years old, you're still young. You got to reintroduce yourself to that same guy at 30, 31, 35 because he's not the same guy. It's the same person, but he's not the same guy. You have to reintroduce yourself to a grown man. And so when people grow up, you should allow people to get a chance to grow up because some guys come in the league immature, not understanding things. They haven't seen how the world works, how the media works. But once you go around the circuit a few times and understand it, you pass that knowledge down to each other and you try to help guys. That's why I gravitated to you because I saw what you stood for. I saw the situation they used to put you in the game with the bases loaded with no outs, and then all of a sudden, if 2 runs scored, they're booing you because the 2 runs scored. Well, always told you didn't put them there. Somebody else put them there, and so it's just things like that. I think it goes a long ways when you have somebody in your corner and really take the time out to see what you're really going through and how you dealt with it. It was remarkable to me.
It's a really interesting comment you made there, especially about guys coming into the league so young. And it's perfect segue because you were one of those players. I mean, you came into the league at 19 years old. I think a lot of people forget that. Can you talk a little bit? I know you mentioned that just now, but
And as an infielder, this guy was playing infield.
I
Man.
know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's. Can you talk about that experience at all? What it was like to come into playing Major League Baseball when you're still a teenager and essentially, like you mentioned, sort of growing up in the game. What was that like?
Right. Well, it was difficult during my time in the '80s. The '80s is not like now because you have a lot of young players that's in the league now that can gravitate to each other. They can hang
Yeah.
out together. They can go to lunch before the game. They can sit around and talk the same language. But coming in the league
Even
at
the
the age
coaches
I
now
was
too.
at, excuse me.
Even the coaches now too.
Yeah,
Young.
even the
You know.
coaches are young, and when you have that, the time I came in, you had a lot of old school guys that didn't tolerate young players, didn't want them around, um, and they was fearing for their jobs and things like that. They wasn't passing their jobs over to you, or giving you life lessons and helping you turn into a man at the big league level because it was just different, and so that's what made me the person I became because the way I got done, it was very difficult. It was never an easy day for me coming in because I couldn't hang out with the players. I couldn't get to know the players on a personal level because I was still underage. I wasn't even old enough to drink. And so, I would go to shortstop and, the veteran guys, they'll walk off. So I couldn't learn anything from them. And so when I became a veteran, I never did that to other players. I always gravitated to the young kids and I always bought them tailored suits, nice shoes,
There you go.
take them out to eat, never let them pay a dime for anything. And so I wanted them to feel at home and feel welcome on the team, something that I didn't feel. And so, that's why when I look at these young players now, it's a lot easier to come in the game and feel comfortable right away.
That's a tradition that's kind of gone, Chef. In the game, having the veterans, kid around, it's almost like being the older brother, right? You're giving them
Yeah.
a hard time, just enough time to let them know, like, hey, know your place,
Yeah.
pay us respect, earn your stripes, kind of thing, and buying them suits and teaching them all that. That's kind of a lost tradition. But I will say, again, I give kudos to Chef, and I love this guy in more ways for what he's done just as a friend and as my agent and a teammate. But he would sit in my locker one day. He looked at me before when we were teammates. He's giving a tutelage about the hitters over there, and I was kind of eavesdropping, like, I gotta listen to this guy. And about hitters, he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just listening. Is it okay? A pitcher joining the hitters meeting group at clinic in the locker room. He had Curtis Granderson and
Yeah.
Marcus Stain. I can't remember who else was there.
Curdy.
Huh?
Curdy.
Curdy, yeah.
Curtis Granderson.
And I'm looking at it, I said, "Is it okay if I sit here?" Right? And you were like, "Yeah, I guess why not?"
I was
Yeah.
gonna ask Gary if you remember that, because I remember.
Oh, I
Jason telling
do.
that.
This is when our relationship really started because, this is what like that's what you should do. You should as teammates, you should talk about things and try to figure out things together because that way when you get on one accord, the common goal is to win. And so however I can help you, you can help me. Let's talk about it because we need to know what pitchers think as well. And so a lot of guys used to ask me for tips and how do I do this? How do I make contact all the time? And so they can't. A lot of guys used to strike out a lot, and they always wanted to be a guy that didn't strike out. And I told them, I said, well, it's your approach, and your approach is different than my approach. My approach has always been simple. Y'all like to listen to scouting reports and then try to figure out a pitcher. So if I'm trying to figure out Jason Grilli, how am I going to figure out Jason Grilli when Jason Grilli he's not telling me what he's going to throw? So you keep it simple. You hit what you like, and whatever else come, you adjust to. And that's what my principle was. It's that I'm not going to go outside of what I don't like to do and try to do something else that the scouting report is telling me to do. I do what I feel like I do best is hit a fastball, and it makes you a better breaking ball hitter because they can't get to the breaking ball. And so if they do get to the breaking ball, then I become less of a threat of a home run guy, and I become a Tony Gwynn type hitter where I spread the ball around. And then sometimes you hit home runs thinking that way. But I'm not going to sit here and feel like if I got two strikes, no balls on me, that I still got a chance to hit a home run. I have to give up something and respect the guy that's out there and make the game simple. And that was my approach.
Hey,
Interesting.
Gary, I wanted to ask you because I was a huge fan watching you growing up, and I was going through. And I got to ask you, man, I wanted to talk about your swing and your stance because it's so iconic. It really is.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I use it in my slow pitch softball league. Okay. So, how did that come about? Did you always have that stance and that kind of flip of the bat with the wrist? And like, how did that come about? And was that some sort of a mental thing for you to get set? And just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I always pointed the bat towards the pitcher, like Julio Franco. I was more like that, but the bat was still. Back in my time, we didn't use wood bats growing up. That was too expensive of a bat, and really we didn't have any. So we used to borrow each other's aluminum bat. So that's all we knew. When I got the rookie ball, that was my first time using a wood bat,
Wow.
and the guy jammed me so bad, and it hurt my thumb so bad. It was like, wow, like nobody ever jammed me in my life, and my first year in pro ball, I get jammed, and they were like, "Welcome to the real world." And so
Yeah.
when I got that, I was like, "Whoa, I got to get some kind of movement going and get it started because these guys throwing harder. They have good breaking balls. The ball run in on you. Like in high school, we didn't have guys that know how to run the ball in on you and then throw a slide piece away from you and things like that. So these are things I had to adjust to. So I was taking batting practice in Helena, Montana, and I just started messing around with the bat. I just started wiggling the bat, just goofing around, and I wound up hitting the ball out the park. And I was like, whoa, I felt strong when I did that. Then next time I did it like 9 more times, and I hit 10 balls out in a row. You know, I hit that first one, but then I hit 9 in a row right after that. So that made 10 in a row.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm taking this into the game. And I
Yeah.
took it into the game, and I wound up hitting 2 home runs that day. And that's where it started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
And that wasn't from a coach. That's just you tooling around.
Yeah. So, well, as a hitter, what I had to learn over 22 years, you have to make adjustments day to day, especially with professional pitching. You may hit a guy good, in the back of the box. You may hit a guy good, standing even with the plate. So you have to steady make adjustments. You have to wind down and tone the wiggle down a little bit on certain guys and speed it up on certain guys just to time their speed. So that it was always a timing mechanism for me, because it was like if a guy was throwing really hard, I had to wiggle a little faster because now I got more movement going. If a guy is throwing slow, I just be more relaxed and let the ball get deep on me. And so those type of things, it kind of helped me. It's almost like in golf having a cigar in your mouth, after getting ready to hit a shot. So that way you don't turn your head and burn your shirt.
It's really interesting thinking about that. I mean, that iconic stance and swing. And I wonder too, because what you said something in there that I think is really important for especially younger kids to hear. It is a timing mechanism. So what would you, I guess, what would be your biggest piece of advice to kids who are, maybe trying to find that timing mechanism themselves? Because I think a lot of kids, and I growing up, I wanted to, David Wright was my guy, so I always wanted to try and emulate his batting stance and try and do the same thing. But it's like, you've got to also remind yourself that, you got to find your own thing, and not what works for, what works for a major leaguer might not work for you. What would you say to kids who, are trying to, mess around with that themselves?
Well, I have one rule when they step in the cage. I get guys, probably 5 or 6 guys in a group, and they come and they, I'm talking to them about hitting, and everybody is different in the group. You may have a guy that's a leadoff guy, you have a middle of the order guy, you may have a left-hand hitter, different kind of hitters. And so what I tell them, I don't care how you stand when you standing up here to hit, it's where you get what you get to when it's time to hit. So really, your batting stance really doesn't matter. It's just, if you look at the Major League Baseball logo, is everybody has to get to that position to be successful. And so I always tell guys when they walk in there, if the number 3 hitter comes in there and he's smashing balls to right center and the launch angle swing with power, and I'm teaching him one thing, but then when that guy that's the leadoff guy comes in there, the first thing I do, I stop him. I say, now, what I'm going to tell you is you're not him. Now we're going to come in here and work on what you need to work on, like spread the ball line to line. There's no reason for you to have a launch angle swing, because if you hit a ball in the air, it's out. It's not going out the park. So I need you to be a line drive guy to spread the ball where you can get on base, so holes open up. And, so if everybody's trying to play a shift on you, I look at it as you're not that good of a hitter. So anybody that play a shift on me, I'll be the first 400 hitter. So I'm just telling you straight like it is. But I always tell these kids, if you can hit line to line, you always have holes out there.
You do tell, and I tell you what Chef does is gives so much clinic, and it isn't the worst thing that any player can do for that matter, is comparison. Right? When you try to be like somebody else, it's fun to emulate. It's always the biggest form of flattery, right? When you try to imitate. But I don't see anybody trying to imitate what you were doing.
Right.
But I know what you were.
Only my crazy son.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I think it was on Facebook or Instagram, you were smoking one of your famous cigars there, your most suggested cigars.
Yes.
And he's still doing his thing and parking balls out there with teachers.
Yeah.
So, hey, if it's in the DNA, I think he's probably the one to carry that on and carry that torch. But, yeah, I think like what you said, to your point, I think it's always hard to compare yourself or almost like try to be exactly like, because no one is exactly like, but the mentality you can pick up and you can derive your game. That's what I did, as to hey, oh my God, this guy has a great slide step, or this guy has a good pickoff move, or, probably for you, Chef, this guy has a good Well, if Julio Franco was even who you compared to, or somebody that you were like, hey, this guy holds a bat like this. We all had somebody we looked up to.
Yeah.
I
Right.
wanted to be Nolan Ryan. I wanted to be like Roger Clemens. They were some of the best in the game.
Right.
So I tried to, hey, those are my guys, the rabbits I wanted to chase. So to your point, I love that you said, hey, the first hitter, don't be like the third hitter. That's not your job.
Yes. Keep the main thing the main thing. You know, you got to know what you're good at. And when they come in the cage too, we don't work on your strengths. We work only on your weaknesses. You know, we don't come in here to work on our strengths because you're already good at that. You know,
Yeah.
if you work on your strengths, you may gain 1% of getting better. It may be 1%. You could because you're already good at it. You're not going to hit no ball no farther. You know, you're gonna make 7 outs out of 10. Nothing gonna change in that department. But what we're gonna do is, you know, we have to work on things where you get attacked. Wherever you get attacked the most, that's what we work on. And I want you to get so good at it that it's not a weakness anymore. And even if it's still a weakness, but you have 60% gain. And so now when you got 60% gain, opposed to looking for 1% gain of things you do well, that makes you a better baseball player.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to the WBC, I talk about emulating players and following athletes. For me at least, I hope the goal of the WBC was that's what across the globe kids were watching it, their favorite, they're watching their country, their players, and now they are hooked on it and they're following them, and it gravitates them towards the game.
Yeah.
I really hope that's what's accomplished because that was phenomenal. And the ratings, I was reading some articles this morning about the ratings. The ratings were through the roof, doubled from 2016. And I'm trying to sit here and think, like, what was it? Like, what was it? Was it because it's off the backs of FIFA? So it's still kind of got like that global thing going on, and it kind of goes into that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just say that when you are having Mike Trout involved in this, and when you're talking about the best player in the game,
Mm-hmm.
when we had Barry Bonds, myself, all of the great players that back when this thing first started, we didn't understand it like these kids do today. You know, we thought a lot of things wasn't in order and a lot of things wasn't in place. And Jace could tell you this. We was told if we played in it, if we got hurt, our contracts wasn't guaranteed.
Wow.
They can void our contract. So guys wasn't taking that risk. And so I would have loved to play on the team if I would have knew more about the logistics and all of that type of stuff. But when they was telling us if you get injured, basically, we was getting pressure from the organization saying that if you get injured, you're gonna hurt us during the season. So you was getting mixed signals about playing in it, but you wanted to represent your country, but things wasn't totally in place like they are today.
You guys at all.
Right. So you look at the Mets just gave the closer all this money and just celebrating, and he gets hurt. Altuve breaks his thumb, he's out. So all those things we tried to take in consideration before we made that decision. But I think these kids have so much information now, and that they're aware of what the chances are of them getting hurt and things that happen. They're willing to take that risk. But I just think that the way the game is marketed now, it wasn't marketed that way when it first came out about this WBC. It wasn't marketed that way. I think now people are more aware of it. They look forward to it. And I think that Mike Trout and Ohtani was being involved in it. And they had both of their clubs are really great. So that alone, brings the marketability to through the roof because baseball, Jason tell you watching it now is like watching paint dry sometimes during the regular season because I don't like to be one of these old players to down the game or whatever, but I'm not one of these guys that don't want change, don't want to see things change. I'm all for it. Anything to help the game. But when I see the style of play, when there's no action going on, when there's no triples, there's no getting a guy over, there's no hit and running, all these things, you see guys, like if somebody's sitting there watching it and they're sitting in the stands or sitting at home, and they see the shortstop move and a ball hit dead to shortstop, somebody may be yelling from the couch, that's a ground ball, it's a double play, but just because a runner was moving, that ball's going to left field, and now the guy's a play at third base. That's what I get excited about because, just standing there, just waiting on a home run or a strikeout. I mean, to me, a home run is not it's not all that exciting no more because when they do hit it, you expect it.
But
I got to ask you. Oh, go ahead, bro.
I was just saying, he was saying this, though, years ago, and it was frustrating when you were watching me play. You come and watching me play, and the time you were like, I can't watch the hitting because, and even back to Lindsey Barrow when we had her on the show.
Yeah.
She's talking about Yogi, and you probably got some Yogi stories being a Yankee. Yogi retired after he struck out 3 times. Now guys are striking out 200 times. It's acceptable. But to your point, there's not enough action. It's the brand of baseball that is so different that it's hard for guys like you who are taught a certain way. We were taught this branded baseball, and then it all changed because of analytics and the shift, and we got bases the size of pizza box. We don't know what's next. So I don't know how you and I would be if.
But look at it like this, Jace. Look at it like this. They all 32 teams. What is it? 30 teams now? 32. However many teams it is, they all claim they want to win, right?
Yeah.
But have certain teams won that didn't used to win, or is it new teams that's winning and the teams that was winning is losing now? It's the same teams that win is winning before and they're winning now. Whoever had the most resources win. And so that's what happens. And so if the game was changing and now you're saying the Chicago Cubs is a winning organization now, they're going to the playoffs and the World Series year after year, then you can say the rule changes made a difference in equal play. But that's not the case. It's about they're telling you to play a game a certain way, which is not helping the standards and for the Kansas City Royals and the Chicago Cubs and the teams that's not winning. Now, if it was changing the standings, then it'll make you think, right? But it's not. So now, what's next? How do you want to market this game and who you want to market it to? So if you're marketing it to the fans, that's what brings the ratings, the fans. So if the fans is bringing the ratings, then why don't you play the style that the fans want to see? That's action. And once they see action, they're going to tune in, just like you saw in the WBC.
And I know we got to leave here soon, but I'll let you go, Garrett, but I just want to get your thoughts on that pitch clock.
I don't like the pitch clock because pitchers can manipulate it a little bit, like Scherzer. I saw that he sat on the mound and waited till the hitter got in the box. He wasn't even set, so he was able to wind up and throw the ball. I don't like that part of it. So really, that's gimmicky. And if I don't have the opportunity to set myself and look at the pitcher and then get ready, then why should I have to get in the box when I got 1 foot in and the guy winding up? So that I don't mind the pitch clock, but everybody has to be set.
It's a very good point, I think, and I know that we kind of you just touched on this before we asked about the pitch clock, but you were talking about it was interesting to hear you say, a home run is boring, because this is coming from someone who hit 500 home runs in his career, and I wore my Mets shirt for a reason there, because I know you didn't play there for a long time, but that memory is burned in my brain because I watched you hit your 500th home run for my Mets. So I wanted to ask before we do have to let you go, but what was that moment like for you? Because, it's not every day you get to talk to someone who's blasted 500 dingers in the major leagues. So talk to us about that a little bit and what that meant to you.
Well, to me, it was like, coming out of high school, getting drafted, your life changed. It's like a life-changing moment. It's like you expect it to happen because you put up a Gatorade Player of the Year. So you expect the draft to come and say your name. But when they actually call your name, that's when reality hits and your life changed. I felt like I was going to hit 500 home runs at some point. I just ain't know when. But then, I flew my parents out and I wanted my parents to see it, and I just couldn't hit a home run for a whole week. So I was like, this trip is getting costly. You need to go home. so so they wind up going home, and then I wind up pinch hit. I wind up coming in to pinch hit and hit a home run, and I wasn't even thinking about the home run at that particular time because I was just not thinking about it. But it's when
Yeah.
I was thinking about it is when I had my parents come in town because I wanted to do it in front of them. But when they left and I wasn't thinking about it, it wound up going out, and it was almost like out of body experience. The you know life changing moment for me. This is something that I always knew I could do and dreamed of doing, and it's finally a reality.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I had to ask because that was just, I'll always remember that, and what a cool moment. But
Hey, 500 is monumental, and I know
Absolutely.
maybe a sore topic, but you should be in the Hall of Fame, man.
Yep.
You're among the greats. What a stellar launch scroll
Right.
of accomplishments as well as failures. Talk about, all your success. I know when people sit there and they give us, you're introducing somebody, someone like yourself, anybody that's had success in anything, business, and especially in our game. When you introduce, you hear all the accolades, but I like to talk about it, Michael Jordan's mentioned it. You know how many times you have to fail to succeed?
Mhm.
Tell these kids and anybody that's listening how all those failures or a particular failure, something that you said this is what I struggled with, and it was a game changer for you once you clicked. Like you said, in the cage, we ain't working on the stuff that we're good at. That's fun. When you work on stuff that you already know how to hit the ball the other way or in this inside or whatever you're working on to get, that's why I'm drafted. I'm good at that. The stuff that we're going to be better at. Tell me something that was like a game changer once you mastered something that elevated you and took you to the next level.
Well, I always tell everybody you're gonna go through failures, but it's how you handle the failure. I I always say, you know, until you trust yourself, because that's why you fail. You don't trust yourself. Anybody that trusts themselves and have a belief system that can't be broken, because you're going to have coaches to tell you what you can't do. You're going to have players to say that they're better than you and they can do this better than all of those things. I wasn't the biggest and the strongest guy. I'm standing at right about 6 feet. I'm not 6'5". I'm not 6'6". I'm not Aaron Judd. I'm not none of those guys. But at the same time, I know I can reach the fences. And so the bottom line is, I always tell kids who can reach the fence and do it the most on a consistent basis is going to be the winner. And so I
Yeah.
don't care how big and strong you are, how fast you are. If you don't have a belief system in yourself, then you're gonna fail, and you're not gonna know how to get out of it because you don't trust yourself and you don't believe in yourself. People like to pretend that they are confident. I tell kids all the time that Major League Baseball are hitters are the most insecure people on the planet, because when they hitting 220, they don't know how to hit 280
Mm.
because they insecure about it. They let failure creep into their brain, or they let looking at a Pedro Martinez or Randy Johnson dictate, who they are. And one thing about me is I don't let nobody dictate who I am. I am who I am, whether you like it or not. But when it's game time, I'm going to compete, and you better be ready to compete because I want your best, just like I hope you want my best.
Yeah.
Last
Absolutely.
question, Grilli. Did you face Gary?
I think I faced him a couple times, but I tell
What
you what,
happened?
if I faced him a couple more, I know what might have happened. I don't want to go there. I do have the bragging right, but I'll tell you what, he's done more for me in my career that I will never throw that. I don't even want to erase that question.
Yeah. Grilly and we had a couple battles. I think I hit a ball to shortstop. I think I struck out. I think, um, but he was one of those guys that his style of pitching gave me problems because he threw just hard enough at 94, 96. Uh, he can throw hard enough so he can throw his slider, and his slider was so hard, and you couldn't pick it up from the fastball. That was the problem. You know he a lot of guys what made me good as a hitter is I can pick up the pitch before you throw it. And Jace just had this delivery where, he hides the ball, and when he's stretching out to you, he's 6'5", so 6'6". So when he's stretching out to you, it's like he's halfway home,
Yeah.
pitching to you. So you really can't pick it up. And when you try to pick it up and look for a certain pitch, it's the opposite pitch. So, he was one of those difficult guys. But like Jay said, he'll tell you, the more we see you, we'll figure things out, because, I'm going to find things that he does that'll show me when this pitch is coming or not.
Well, I can tell you this, and this is a mound visit. Like I said, we got an all-star outfielder, but he did play infield, and that's why he's on the mound visit today. And this guy's done more for my career just in confidence. Like I said, I was at that hitters meeting that he was giving a clinic to some of the young guys in Detroit. But even as my friend and as my teammate and then as my agent, we'd always have conversations. Yep. And like I said, when you sit there and you listen to a guy like this speak about the game so passionately, love and respect, and the knowledge, Chef, it's been wonderful, man. I know we talk all the time, but it's fun to do this with you. Introduce you to some of my friends, kids at home watching this, some of the dads trying to teach their kids. I hope we bring some good stuff to the table. We got to have you on again, man. It's just fun. I know you got another couple cigars probably to hang out with today. Enjoy Wednesday, your hump day. Yeah, so that's for you, your family. And I can't wait. Like I said, you got two kids that are one of them is going to definitely make it, if not both of them. And, that name Sheffield, his uncle's Doc Good and Dwight Good, another Mets player case,
Of course.
That's Chef's uncle.
Yes.
So I think we're going to be seeing the Sheffield name in lights, and hope to do just the same, if not more than you, right? You want the best for your kids.
Yeah, I just want them to enjoy it, and if they want to play professional baseball, that's fine. I told them, as long as you get your degrees, everything else comes after that to me. I tell them all the time, I don't really care if you play baseball, to be honest with you, but if that's what you love to do and that's what you want to do, I'm going to be out here and give you everything I got. And as long as you give me everything you got. And so I'm not one of them parents that's going to be overboard and overbearing to my son. If they ask me a question, I'm going to give them the truth. And sometimes it's harsh, but I tell them then, don't ask me then, if you don't want the truth. Because I'm telling you how I evaluate you, you better believe the scouts evaluating you the same. So if I see you lacking in something, then I'm going to bring it to your attention and hopefully you can fix it.
Well, yeah, this is my one fearful moment with Gary Sheffield, more even so than facing him a couple times. We were in spring training down in Lakeland, Florida, and one of his sons, I don't remember which one it was, he was giving you a hard time, wasn't listening, wasn't having it. Well, Chef went from all-star player to dad mode, and I was like, I'm glad I am not his kid right now. So whatever you're teaching them, I know it's working right. You still know that.
They know I don't play.
Fearful moment. I did. And my stomach, I was like, oh shit, my stomach returned. I was like, I hope this kid's going to be all right.
Well, it's about, I can teach you or the world can teach you. And so, if I'm telling you something and if I don't like something, then we're going to fix it because, I just want respectful kids. My kids are very respectful. They're smart. They're good-looking boys. They pay attention for the most part, but kids going to be kids, and that's why we parents. So we have to parent.
Amen, dude.
Amen.
Absolutely. We hope you guys enjoyed that interview with the legend Gary Sheffield. 500-plus Major League home runs right there. Pretty incredible stuff. But we want to remind you guys, before you step away, to follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. You can see all of that content there. Subscribe to the channel, Top 100 Sports Network, and make sure that you give us a follow on the podcast when you listen on Spotify, Apple Music. Leave a comment for the show. Send in your questions to us, Top 100 Sports Net, at Top 100 Sports Net on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you want to send some questions in for us to ask to Jason, any of our guests here coming up, just let us know, and we'll be happy to get those questions answered on the show. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next week.